At 63, Melissa Sue Anderson is finally telling the story she stayed silent about for decades, and in doing so, she reshapes how we see not only her life, but the people and pressures that defined an entire era of television. For years, audiences remembered her as Mary Ingalls, the gentle, responsible sister with steady eyes and a calm voice. But behind that composed exterior was a young girl navigating fame, expectations, and emotional weight far heavier than anyone realized at the time. Melissa was born on September 26, 1962, in Berkeley, California, into a household that valued balance over ambition. Her parents encouraged creativity, but they also believed deeply in education, structure, and grounding. Acting wasn't a dream they chased. Stardom wasn't a destination they planned. It was simply one possibility among many. But when the family moved to Los Angeles, everything shifted. Hollywood has a way of noticing certain children, especially those who don't try to be noticed. Melissa didn't perform for attention. She didn't exaggerate. She listened. She absorbed. And when she looked at the camera, there was something unmistakable in her eyes, an emotional intelligence that felt older than her years. Talent scouts saw it immediately. Commercial auditions turned into bookings. Bookings turned into more auditions. And soon, Melissa was stepping onto professional sets while still very young. Yet even then, she was different. She wasn't dazzled by lights or impressed by fame. She watched how adults behaved. She learned quickly what was expected of her, and how to deliver without complaint. Early guest roles on shows like Bewitched and The Brady Bunch became her training ground. These weren't glamorous experiences. They were lessons in discipline, in patience, in understanding that acting wasn't about being cute, it was about being present. While other child actors leaned on charm, Melissa leaned on instinct. She studied scripts carefully. She asked questions. She listened to directors. She learned to hit her marks and manage her emotions without letting them spill out uncontrollably. It was a quiet kind of professionalism, and it set her apart. Then came 1974. Everything changed when Melissa was cast as Mary Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie. At the time, no one could have predicted the impact the show would have. Adapted from Laura Ingalls Wilder's beloved books, it wasn't just a television series. It became a weekly ritual for millions of families. It spoke about hardship, morality, love, and survival in a way that felt sincere and human. And Melissa became one of its emotional anchors. As Mary Ingalls, the eldest daughter of Charles and Caroline, she embodied responsibility. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't loud. She was steady, dependable, the kind of character audiences trusted without realizing why. Opposite her was Melissa Gilbert's Laura, spirited, impulsive, and emotional. Together, they created a balance that felt authentic, like real sisters shaped by the same parents but pulled in different emotional directions. Michael Landon, who played Charles Ingalls, was more than the show's star. He was its creator, director, and driving force. To the public, he represented warmth, wisdom, and idealized fatherhood. On screen, he was America's dad. Behind the scenes, however, the atmosphere was far more complex. For a young girl like Melissa, Landon wasn't someone you joked with or confided in. He was demanding, focused, perfection-oriented. He expected excellence, and he expected it consistently. Praise was rare. Silence was common. And then came the storyline that would define her career, and quietly change her life. When the writers decided that Mary Ingalls would lose her sight after a severe illness, it wasn't just a plot twist. It was a creative gamble. It demanded emotional depth, restraint, and maturity far beyond what most child actors could deliver. Melissa was still a teenager. The storyline required her to convey grief without exaggeration, fear without hysteria, strength without sentimentality. She couldn't rely on tears alone. She had to embody loss through posture, timing, and silence. Michael Landon pushed her relentlessly. Scenes were repeated. Adjustments were constant. Expectations were unspoken but heavy. Melissa understood that failure wasn't an option, not just for her, but for the integrity of the show itself. So she delivered. She studied the way blind individuals moved. She softened her gaze. She adjusted her physicality. She learned to communicate emotion without eye contact. Every choice was deliberate. The result was extraordinary. Viewers didn't just watch Mary lose her sight, they felt it. The storyline became one of the most memorable arcs in television history. Critics praised her restraint. Audiences were devastated in the best possible way. Melissa earned an Emmy nomination for her performance, solidifying her reputation as one of the most talented young actresses of her generation. But the cost was invisible. Behind the applause was exhaustion, emotional strain, a quiet understanding that excellence often came at the expense of comfort. Favoritism and unspoken competition existed on set, even among children. And while Landon respected her talent, warmth was never part of the equation. There was a wall, Melissa would later admit. He wasn't someone you could talk to easily as a kid. She didn't share this to dismantle his legacy, but to humanize it. After Little House, Melissa faced a crossroads that many former child stars never navigate successfully. Instead of chasing fame, she chose challenge. In 1980, she starred in Which Mother Is Mine, a deeply emotional television film that demanded raw vulnerability. Her performance earned her an Emmy Award and proved something important, not just to audiences, but to herself. She wasn't Mary Ingalls anymore. She was an actress with range. Yet as Hollywood pulled her forward, Melissa quietly stepped back. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, she made intentional choices. Horror films like Happy Birthday to Me, select television dramas, roles that interested her emotionally, not ones designed to maintain visibility. This wasn't a fall from relevance. It was a refusal to be consumed. Melissa watched other child stars burn out, unravel, or disappear under pressure. She saw what non-stop exposure did to people. And she chose peace over performance. In 1990, she found stability in her personal life when she married writer and producer Michael Sloan. Their relationship wasn't built on publicity or industry advantage. It was grounded, supportive, and deeply private. Together, they created a life that didn't revolve around red carpets. By the late 1990s, Melissa made her most important decision yet: family first. She stepped away from Hollywood's constant demands to raise her children, Piper and Griffin. She chose presence over headlines, school events over auditions, ordinary days over extraordinary attention. It was a radical decision in an industry that rarely rewards restraint. Yet she never lost her craft. Appearances in projects like X-Men, Burke's Law, Earthquake in New York, and Thin Ice reminded audiences that her talent hadn't faded, it had simply matured. After a 5-year pause, she returned in 2006 with 10.5, Apocalypse. Calm, confident, and commanding, she proved that true talent doesn't disappear. It waits until the moment feels right. In 2002, the family relocated to Montreal, seeking normalcy. In 2007, they officially became Canadian citizens, embracing a quieter life far from Hollywood's noise. Then, in 2014, Melissa released her memoir, The Way I See It. The book wasn't sensational. It didn't seek revenge or headlines. It was thoughtful, reflective, and often humorous. She spoke honestly about fame, pressure, motherhood, and the reality of growing up in the public eye. Critics praised its emotional intelligence. Readers appreciated its honesty. And then came loss. On August 13, 2025, Michael Sloan passed away. His death marked the end of a partnership that had shaped Melissa's personal and creative life for decades. Grief arrived quietly, without spectacle, just like everything else she valued. Now, with time and clarity, Melissa is finally speaking openly about her past, including her years working with Michael Landon. Her reflections don't erase his brilliance. They deepen it. Landon was a visionary. He created something timeless. But he was also human, flawed, distant, demanding. The father figure America adored was not always the mentor young actors needed. Melissa's honesty doesn't diminish Little House on the Prairie. It completes it. Her story isn't about bitterness. It's about truth. About understanding that inspiration can coexist with pain. That greatness often demands a price, and that choosing yourself is sometimes the bravest act of all. Melissa Sue Anderson's legacy isn't measured by constant visibility or endless roles. It's measured by intention, integrity, and quiet strength. She grew up in front of the world, and learned when to step away from it. And in doing so, She gave us something even more powerful than performance. Perspective. If her story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment below.